Just to take a short time out and notice the timetable of Jesus' arrest and crucifixion that we've looked at in the last couple of lessons. On the Thursday evening of this week that Jesus was crucified, he ate the Passover with his disciples. We saw that in the Gospel of Mark. John 13:30 indicates that. Then he goes over out of Jerusalem across the Kidron Valley to the Mount of Olives to Gethsemane. That's late on Thursday night. He prays late, then he's arrested, taken over to the priest's compound where Annas and Caiaphas are, and through the middle of the night he's interrogated and abused by Annas, Caiaphas, and the chief priests and their henchmen. And then you remember Peter's denial, the cock crows, so it's getting toward morning when Peter denies the Lord for the third time. Then he's taken to Pilate early in the morning. John 18:28 tells us it was early that Friday morning. Luke tells us that Pilate at first sends him over to Herod, who must have been close by. And for a little bit, Herod also interrogates him. And then Herod sends him back to Pilate. And that second trial would have occurred about 8 a.m. And then he's crucified. He's on the cross by the third hour. This is 9 o'clock in the morning. There's darkness from noon till 3, as we've just seen Mark tell us. And then Jesus dies about the 9th hour, or perhaps a little bit thereafter, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So it really only takes about 6 hours of being on the cross for Jesus to pass away. That's really not a very long time. It was known that, it is known historically that some people could linger on a cross for as long as 10 days. But you have to remember that Jesus has been extraordinarily abused, beaten multiple times, probably was suffering a lot of blood loss and other problems, physical problems at this time, dehydration and other things. And so his death is fairly rapid for someone who is put to death on a cross. He's buried before nighttime that day, and so he's in the tomb by 6 o'clock on Friday. So we'll go on now in Mark chapter 15 and look at verse 42. When evening had come, because it was the preparation day, that is the day before the Sabbath, Joseph of Arimathea, a prominent council member who was himself waiting for the kingdom of God, coming and taking courage, went into Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. So as evening approaches, Joseph of Arimathea, again, he comes in to Pilate. It would have taken a lot of courage for him to do this because he was a member of the Jewish council. He'd been somewhat a disciple of Jesus secretly because he feared, no doubt, losing his position, what the other Jews would do. But now he courageously comes forth in a very public way and sort of admits a fondness for Jesus in asking for the body that he might pay his respects by giving it a proper burial, if you will. When he does this, Pilate is surprised. Again, had only been a few hours of Jesus being on the cross. He's surprised to learn that Jesus has died already, and he questions the soldiers about it. As you go on in verse 44, Pilate marveled that he was already dead. Summoning the centurion, he asked him if he had been dead for some time. So when he found out from the centurion, he granted the body to Joseph. Then Joseph brings fine linen, takes Jesus down, wraps him in the linen. He laid him in a tomb in which had been hewn out of the rock, and he rolled a stone against the door of the tomb. We don't know exactly which tomb that was. There are a few empty tombs in Jerusalem. There are two that are identified as likely, at least possibilities. The picture that you see on the screen is probably the least likely of those two possibilities. This is called the Garden Tomb. And although it may not have been the actual tomb in which Jesus was buried, it gives you a good idea of what it may have looked like. The Bible does tell us that the tomb where Jesus was laid, there was a garden there. It also says it was near to Golgotha, and this particular tomb is near to that site that I showed you earlier of Golgotha. So Joseph takes down the body. He lays it in this tomb. It's a hewn tomb. It's not a cave where there might be back passages or something like that, or other ways into it. It's one that's just been hewn out of the rock. And this particular tomb also was just hewn out of the rock. We come to verse 47. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Joseph, observed where he was laid. So the women, these two women at least, are watching Joseph of Arimathea lay the body in the tomb. They know exactly what tomb it is. They know where it was laid. And that's an important fact because of what's going to come next. These are the women that come to the tomb early the Sunday morning, 3 days later. They come to the tomb with spices to finish the burial routine for Jesus. And of course, they're going to find that the body is not there. But they certainly weren't mistaken in which tomb it was. They didn't get directions from somebody else. They themselves had been there already. They knew exactly where it was. So that's an important fact when you think about this body being laid in this particular tomb. It was known where it was. And Jesus was surely dead. That was verified by the centurion. And this is not, somebody waking up after just passing out or something like that. This is not a case of the women not knowing which tomb it was. This is not a case of Jesus sneaking out of a back passage in the cave, because it wasn't a cave, it was hewn. So there's lots of things about this that are important for us to understand.